Hello, hello. Welcome to today's episode after a 2 month hiatus. I am joined again with my friend Aggrobacon or Tim TK. Tim, say hello to the strangers on the interwebs.
Hello, strangers.
Great. This is how I make people feel at home, you know? Be extremely vague with them and non descriptive. So it could be anybody. Doesn't matter who. So today we are talking about the turtles. I have very missed. I've not missed thoughts on the movie, but kind of missed emotions on the movie. So I want to hear your thoughts first, my friend. What did you like it?
I liked it a lot. There definitely had some. It wasn't perfect. There's some things it could improve upon, but overall, I thought it was a good movie, and I thought it was really nice how they went against the traditional formula.
Fair enough. I didn't see that. I liked it too, but I don't know why. But there's a part of me that just let me just tweet this out first. I always have to wait until afterward live for me to tweet our
Mhm.
show out. So now that we are live, I can now do that. So, tweeted. Done. All right.
Mhm.
So, I liked it too. I did not like it as much as I was somewhat hoping for,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure if it's because of first bias, bit of bias, since I was very unsure about the Turtles movie, and just it was one of the first times I was questioning why are we using this team.
Okay.
I can't even really describe exactly why I felt such a strong way about that, but it's was just there. And maybe it partly because I was not able to watch the movie so soon after release. I had to wait a few weeks. So maybe I was just, hyping it up a bit in my head, subconsciously, and it just didn't live up to that hype. I liked the characters. There's nothing really necessarily wrong with the movie, besides that the fact that I could tell one of the bad guys off the bat,
Mhm.
and he kept on. Not really the character kept on reminding me of him, right? Because the performances are extremely different.
Yeah.
But my mind did go to Homefront from the boys,
Yeah.
which I mentioned to you privately earlier, which was weird a little bit, but I think the power set and kind of the physical appearance and etc. But
Yeah.
um, but I did like it. I really am happy that we have it, you know, entered into the cosmic sphere of the MCU
Yeah.
in a fuller fashion, since we had it with Guardians, of course. You say their name is Guardians of the Galaxy,
Mhm.
but it was a very minimized, I feel, scope.
Yeah.
Yes, we had ego, but you know, like this scale, we feel like okay, if let's say Galactus popped up sometime soon, or the Living Tribunal, or you know, Silver Surfer, and even these big cosmic players, it would not be as jarring
Yeah.
now compared to before. So, but my vote is because I did like it, but I don't know if I loved it as much as
Mhm.
you did. What is your relationship with the team, though? Like, do you have any knowledge of the Turtles?
Yeah, so I've been reading the Eternals since the Game and Run, And then I've been enjoying the current run with I believe it's Kieran Gillen who's writing it now.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been reading for a while, and I've gone back and I've seen some stuff that was like from back when Kirby was drawing it, but um, again, like classic comics are classics, and they're good to have read, but hard to read. That's
Yeah.
something I say about a lot of stuff, but so there's a lot of fun stuff back there, but I wouldn't recommend anyone just picking up and reading it now, essentially, because it reads like a different form of English.
That's interesting. That's why you think of it. When I think sometimes of classic comics, fun to read, but hard sometimes. Is my mind goes to different times.
Hmm.
Like the stories. Especially the 60s and the 70s, right? That if someone tried to write right now in Marvel or DC, they would be fired immediately.
Yeah.
You know, my main example always goes to like the Silver Age Green Lantern stories
Hmm.
because there's a lot of, let's just say, non-PC stuff in that, in
Yeah.
certain terms. And then I always the dot, I will admit I do get a bit enjoyment from it, but I do realize it is so not okay. Is the Luke Cage Doctor Doom story,
Hmm.
which, yeah, but
Yeah.
you know, different times. So, but yeah, um, I though, I think maybe this is one reason also for me is horror cell is I really have no connection to this team at
Yeah.
all. I don't think I've ever read an Turtles comic. Um, Not that I would want to, but the past couple, say 4 months, I've been trying to prioritize more what I'm reading, and
Hmm.
it's just they're not on the top of my bucket list by any
Sorry.
means.
Yeah.
I have like on the Marvel side, the stuff I want to read right now is like I still want to read X-Men. I still want to go back to that Iron Man run. I kind of actually started reading Dark Hawk, the new Dark Hawk book,
Okay.
which I kind of wanted to conversation maybe on the source point about it, but I don't know. Um, but yeah, Turtles now it's I think I would enjoy it, but it's just something I have no plans to really get to it any point in the near future.
Hmm.
You know, um, Other stuff would be like Iron Fist would be close to read soon, but or Ghost Rider or and I've just a giant backlog of stuff that I really have like 4 months before I really gonna start a new book again. So, but all right, let's as usual we go through the list of characters. So let's go through the list of characters through their introductions. Because I am always not awful with names, I am gonna pop up to wiki so I do not botch names, or at least try not to botch names. Even though it most likely will still happen. So, let's give this a try. Alright, the first one, Cersei, kind of our main character. Um, I liked, I liked it just it, but I was confused what was going on at the beginning. Partly I think because I just, like, the best way I know of the Eternals are they're made by the Celestials. My understanding, they originally were actually from Earth. And the Celestials made of humans, the Eternals, and Deviants.
Yeah.
And the Deviants lived underground. The Eternals went off, to, left the planet. And humans, of course, stayed on Earth and had the ability to gain powers. Hence, I think, like that's June, but I'm not sure.
Yes. So they kind of did talk some more about the origin of everything later on with the gaming run of the Eternals and everything. So the Eternals never actually left Earth. They created 5 cities, something like that. on Earth, and these were things like um, oh man, but Olympus was one of the big ones, but they also had Polaria and all these different things. And from there is where they watched as humanity developed with a kind of weird toned down version of their genetic structure, and uh, eventually they found that mutants were mutants because they had a stronger version of like that eternal genetic structure in them, and so they developed that mutant ability, whereas the Kree gene influence when they sent the Kree pods down created the Inhumans.
Okay.
And the whole reason why other metahumans can't exist on Earth is because of I forgot his name, but there is a dead Eternal. They have the sleeping one, which we'll get to in the movie, but the dreaming Eternal, and that's a whole other thing. But there is a Eternal that died on Earth, or a Celestial that died on Earth before that, and that Celestial's blood, when primarily humans came out of the sea, when they started like eating food that was grown on the soil that was like tainted with celestial blood. That ended up giving them the ability to develop superpowers and magic and all this other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. I want to read more now. Huh. Then that it was accurate. That it was accurate. Kind of. To the movie. When the movie was accurate to the comics then?
Yeah, a bit. The only thing is that when the Dreaming Celestial woke up, it did not. Well, it would not break the Earth. Instead, it ended up just living outside of San Francisco, essentially, as a weird beacon that people will talk to for a while before the X-Men's Rogues Gallery killed it.
Why does this living in San Francisco not sound weird to me?
Right, but it's because if either in New York or San Francisco, if you're in Marvel.
Yeah.
And then once that happened, the Celestials came back and told the Avengers that they could live in the body of the Dreaming Celestial, so and that became Avengers Mountain.
Okay.
And, yep.
Yep. Or Marvel, it could be so odd, but just.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yep. Alright, but Cersei, you like her as the protagonist and kind of movie opened up?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird at first, given that Icarus is normally the protagonist of Eternals comics.
Okay.
It's usually Icarus or Sprite, but I like what they did with her, especially given Cersei's role with the Avengers later on. I thought it was kind of funny how they're mentioning, like, who's going to lead the Avengers. Because for a while, I believe it was New Avengers or Young Avengers, something like that. Cersei did lead them. So, yeah.
Okay. I like did I think this episode is really kind of a nice one for us because it's not as common, I feel, where we do a show together, at least for Marvel, where I am completely a greenhorn and you have a good amount of, knowledge on the history. So, at least my first impression at first, I liked her. I knew about some stuff in the movie going forward, like before I went in, like the Black Knight. Took me a while until I realized who he was. But, like the opening, I liked that. I'm trying to think, like, the main thing that I found was their evolution through the time,
Mm-hmm.
but through the time skips or the flashbacks, throughout the film, um, seeing how she kind of got to where she was in the beginning of the movie
Mm-hmm.
kind of made sense.
Yeah.
In a sense of she never really gave up on humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Like she never sheltered off fully, unlike some of, I guess, her siblings, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word. So,
Yeah. That was something that's true to the that's something that's true to the comics as well. Cersei and Thena were actually Cersei, Thena, and Gilgamesh were actually like the three who believed that even without the even like oh, and also in the comics, it's not that the Celestials gave the Eternals the mission to watch humanity until it dies. It's just that the Celestials, once humanity developed and like mutants became a thing, and other cosmic beings developed, the Eternals, with as great power they have, but as limited scope as they have, became largely irrelevant to the Celestials' grander schemes. So they just abandoned them and let them do their own thing.
oh boy.
So for the thousands of years, the Eternals had like no like directive to do anything. So, but and some of them are fine with just hanging out and doing whatever. But Athena, Gilgamesh, and Cersei were the ones who wanted to find ways to still protect humanity or intervene more now that they didn't have any reason to stay hidden.
Um, um, let's go to Sprite. Sprite, I really had no strong opinion on when I first met her.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like her comics, and how do you feel about her interpretation in a film?
I like her a lot in the comics. I thought in the film it's kind of interesting how she almost had a more serious tone. I mean, she is still a tragic character in the comics, being like essentially forced to live as a child forever, despite wanting to mature. But she is really funny and very witty in the comics. So I felt like they could have done more to make her funnier, but I felt like they did a really good job of getting to more of her emotional core rather than it was just the like humor on the surface.
I agree with that, and it was also a nice change. I don't know, one thing I guess I begin all tired with the MCU, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so much overuse of humor,
Yeah.
a bit. So, like, humor's always good, of course, but I'm
Yeah.
kind of starting to miss some of the bit more serious tones of the early MCU.
Sure. Yeah.
And seeing the character just really not cover everything with humor, or at least if it is humor, almost just, really dry, almost deadpan-ness, um, was a nice change of pace
Yeah.
that I did enjoy. So, I liked her. I liked, especially her kind of action sequences with illusions, love illusion, to powers. So, like, I thought it also nice when I think that I have the humor with the character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without it being overbearing a bit.
Yeah.
Um, I liked her ending though,
Yeah.
very much, and I guess I should say, spoilers. I think by this point, we haven't really said anything too spoilery yet, but the movie's been out for weeks now, so
Yeah.
you know,
The 2 week window is up. People should have seen it by now.
yeah, yeah. So,
If you if you can watch it in the middle of nowhere, people have no excuse.
that is true. That is true. So, yeah. Do you think that resolution for her was earned? That she was, with the family and not fully on board with the idea, joined the antagonist, joined Icarus, and then kind of got redeemed in the end.
Hmm. I like that a lot. For just the way character is. Again, it's not talked about too much in the comics, but it is mentioned that she does have strong feelings for Icarus, because while she is, essentially the group's permanent child, and is always forced to have some levels of immaturity or whimsy, Icarus is always more of the. Uh, well, I'm going to get to Icarus's character is quite a bit different from the comics, but Icarus is the epitome of conviction and willpower. So there's not a whole lot of room for whimsy with him. So when he says he's going to do something, he does it. Um, and but what causes those convictions and that willpower is different in the comics than what it is in the movies.
Mm-hmm. The fact though that she, I guess I'm a little surprised they didn't actually, like, she didn't actually help them win or help really the final battle.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember, sort of that they just kind of forgave her and. Maybe I don't think redeemed is the right word. Actually, I think it's more just she was forgiven.
Yeah.
Not really redeemed. Like I can see in a sequel, her having some guilt for trying to help Icarus and that being a part of the story.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's kind of the idea is that it wasn't necessarily about her seeking redemption. It's the fact that the reason why she did what she did wasn't out of malice, and she was kind of immediately remorseful, just even in the act of doing everything, and didn't commit to fighting them wholeheartedly. Like that was the whole thing where like she had the opportunity to kill Cersei, but decided not to. And then when she realized that, this isn't actually what she wants, and decides to join in with them. That was that whole thing where she didn't need to seek redemption because, but she was understood and actively forgiven. I think it's kind of not really a theme that plays into it before, but I think it is a good theme to bring in more stuff. Is that forgiveness isn't earned; it's forgiven in most cases.
Good explanation. Alright, the good Icarus.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I just thought of Homefront from The Boys, and the fact he turned into a traitor, that made me think of it more. And it's really just the blonde hair, the blue eyes, super strength, flight, heat vision.
Yeah.
And my mind is like, okay, where's the cape?
Yeah.
I think it also because I'm excited for the next season of that show, which should come soon, just to bear my mind more.
Yes.
But I did like him.
Yeah.
But I want to hear your thoughts.
So yeah, I liked him quite as well. But so what I saying, what makes him different from how he plays the comics, what I think is interesting is, and he definitely does have some of those Homefront vibes. But in the comics, his whole thing is he's a big believer in fate and justice informing the ways he protects people. And so in the comics, there's a whole like sub story where he watches over a human for like, I think so they mentioned like he's essentially been watching over this kid for like 13 years without stop. Because he understands like this kid is going to, it plays some role in that. Ends up being kind of a tragic story at the end, but he is, and he's also one of the ones who he's kind of neutral on humans as a whole, but overall believes that they should be protected. So uh, he's when it comes to his conviction, willpower, and the fact that like nothing will make him stop once he's convicted on something, it more so has to do with when he sets his mind to protecting a group of humans, he won't stop until his job is done. He believes that with the Celestials gone, his own mission is just to look out for their creation. I thought it was really interesting, and I think why I think the twist works better on people who have read the comics than people who have not is that the way Chris presents himself in the movie is the way he presents himself in the books, being kind of almost arrogant, a little standoffish, but it comes entirely from a place of good intention. And the person who it may seem a bit more caring, but is actually a manipulative devil dealer is Druig. It's like every time there's a traitor story for the Eternals, it's always Druig. But I just thought it was really interesting that they had Druig be a genuine, empathetic person and have Icarus be the person who ends up turning. They were true to the characters in both cases and played it differently to make that work, but I think that was something that works better on people who've read the comics than people who have not.
That is really interesting. Yeah. I like that a lot, actually. They made it the philanthropy or just kind of segue to Ajax, but right before we go to her, do you think they showed good motivation for why Icarus, betrayed and killed her?
I think they play into his idea of conviction that the only thing he knows is that he was given one mission by the Eternals and that he has to see it through. And that lack of self-agency is, I think it kind of does a good metaphor of people who buy too much into one ideology. But it's they do a really good way of demonstrating how believing too much in a certain dogma can make you view people who get in your way as entirely expendable. I think they could have maybe done a little more work with it, and either because I feel like you'd have to have some more remorse showing in some way. They kind of hinted at that where he's talking with Sprite and saying like, "No, you don't want to be like me. You don't want to follow me." And I think you could have played up that more with him being more almost like self-isolating from the group once they've started like following the bait or whatever.
Fair. I think it made sense that he, killed himself at the end.
Yeah.
Or do you think there's more they could have done with the character?
I think that makes sense because he now his mission is proven to be useless, and the fact that like the Celestials, like there's gonna be some sort of consequences, but from his perspective, there's no consequences because he didn't see them get taken to the tribunal or wherever they're going.
Yeah.
So he's saying like he essentially now in his mind he betrayed his entire family for no end. So for him, I think he's like, well, there's no way I can forgive myself. So
how could they forgive me?
Yeah.
Yep, makes sense. To look at the Ajax, I'm honestly just from the marketing and from the outside perspective, I thought that she would have I guess she had a pretty big role in the movie in some way, but I thought she would be a lot more screen time, I guess.
Yeah.
To better phrase it. So
I thought it was interesting that like she did play the same role in the books where she is the like spiritual guide to them. I thought it was interesting having her be the like overall head leader when normally that is Zeros, who we did not see at all. So having her, I think the way they played her was pretty well thought out and done for her role in terms of like the journey for the rest of the team as being the catalyst. So she is the inventor who turns into the catalyst. So having I think they did the flashbacks very well. I thought too, where it got back to her talking about their religion with the Celestials and their calling and what they're supposed to do with the Deviants and all this. And then her having that second thought where, is this truly something we need to be doing given, just how powerful and potent these humans can be? Shouldn't we let them, live? And I thought, and she really is kind of the spiritual lead, even if she doesn't have as much screen time. So I thought she was handled very well.
Agreed. Yeah, I really have nothing to add to her. I think pretty much all performances were good, but I just have a lot of screen time. I don't know about her backstory like you do, so I liked her. But I say let's just move on to the next, and the next one is the name escaping me. So can go.
Kango?
I think.
I love Kango.
I love her too.
Yeah. I mean, the humor is fantastic, and that's exactly spot on with his performance in the comics. Just also Camille Nanjiani's performance was fantastic. His timing is great. He had like all the right expressions. He has also his ability to move between like humor and sincerity.
Yep.
Was done very well. I think it's kind of funny is in the in the comics he's a bit more of like a ninja.
Huh.
Yeah, but I thought having him be a Bollywood star and all this was just fantastic, especially given like Kumail Nanjiani being from Pakistan and Bollywood being a big part of like the cinematic culture over there. So I thought that was very cool.
That's great. I like that, and I liked him a lot. He might have actually been one of my favorite of the cast. What about his partner?
Oh yeah,
I
forgot his
loved
name.
him. But I
Yeah, he
forgot
was
his name too.
He was really good. Man, what was his name?
Yeah, I'm checking that right now.
Yeah, that having this guy with a camera following them around the entire time was really funny. Because it doesn't quite break the fourth wall, but it does kind of point at like the weird like. It's a weird thing where like you see like a movie or a book in a movie or a book, or like watching the Rogers musical in Hawkeye. It's really like, oh yeah, this is like something that like people are gonna be like super fascinated by. It's like when we see like found footage stuff or like creepy things in the woods now, but like see superheroes fighting, and like that would 100% like be something that people pay a lot of money for. So if you are like a self-centered person, like you would absolutely have a personal assistant follow you around with a camera while you fight deviants in the woods.
I think his performance was fantastic as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like he was definitely one of the core hearts of the movie was this very genuine man in this weird situation that he and love tried to lie and not say it exactly, but like, yeah, your family screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
Or his like deep, very sincere goodbye for the end of the world when he thought that everyone were gonna die. But what do you think about Kingo skipping out on the final battle?
I thought also, I thought it was definitely interesting, but I also thought that was really kind of cool how they, talk about how you can be a non-polarized person in this world. Especially like when you view the consequences as being something like it's not the end of the world for you. You know you're going to come back in some way. So for him to say like, I don't it's like I don't agree with what you guys are wanting to do, but also like I absolutely do not want to fight you, so I'm just gonna vibe. uh, I thought that was very interesting to have that perspective brought into uh, a cinematic universe where it's always been very strongly right versus wrong.
Yeah.
Especially when essentially the premise of the conflict is uh, do you kill a planet to create many more planets, or would that do more damage to like the fact that no one really knows what the full consequences of either action will take? And so for him to say like there's not enough information for me to act on it, and I feel one way but not strongly enough to hurt you, I think that's really interesting that that was brought up.
I do agree with that. Um, Very good points. Um, you want to? I'm trying to remember the order here, and I think we have Gilgamesh and Theta, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will just kind of I want to talk about Gilgamesh first. You met him first, but I just want to see. Well, no, I'll see if we have a Theta. So Gilgamesh, I loved him.
He is great, yeah.
Yeah. I loved the introduction where he just like, talking about how great of a warrior this man is, invincible, incredibly powerful, and then he opens the door to Apron, cooking.
Yep.
And just like that type of humor still really works for me with the MCU.
Yes.
I enjoyed the actor's performance a lot. I loved his sense of humor.
Yeah.
I loved actually like visually how his powers were with the golden exoskeleton.
Yeah. I think it's also like the actor is actually like really big in Korean like crime movies and stuff. And he also does a lot of like boxing and martial arts movies and stuff. He's actually like a really like skilled like Korean boxer. But I really dug how he played it. I think it was interesting how spoilers they decide to have him be the one that gets killed off. I think it makes sense in given the context of what he's doing and why, but in the comics, eventually he becomes like one of the like really important characters, known as the Forgotten One, in that he decides that some of the actions the Eternals take are a little too reckless and put too many humans at risk. So he becomes a person who deletes himself from the Great Machine, which is the computer that rebuilds them every time they die, and it puts himself in as a failsafe over the Eternals, so that way when they step out of line, he comes back and essentially kills them. But he helps them out like to fight Thanos and stuff, and to like fight greater threats. But his main thing is if Eternals start putting human lives at risk, then he will be the one that puts them in check.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of wish we saw that son. And also, I realized I recognized where I know the actor from. Train to Busan.
Yeah.
And I loved him in that. So, yeah. Yeah. But no, Kingo and Gilgamesh, I think, were two of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
Personally for me. But what about Theta? What do you think of her?
I thought it was interesting how they brought in the Mad Brewery. Then we know it worked, but we didn't really get to see too much of Thena's love for humanity, both like figurative and literal. And she is actually like one of the few Eternals to take a human lover.
Oh.
Yeah. But you don't really see that too often, but it was kind of a big part of her, or we don't always see that in movies, but it was a big part of her character in the comics. But I think she did a really good job of portraying a strong, kick-ass female lead whose only real downfall is the fact that she has like this essentially crippling illness, but still doesn't let that define her or stop her from being important.
Good version. Um, I also will say I loved her powers. Just visually speaking of all the special effects of the film, I don't know why I'm focusing so much on special effects this time compared to other episodes we've done, but I really loved just the visualization of the golden weapons.
Oh yeah.
Personally, and her struggle between trying to sickness and her care for her team and her family was interesting, for sure. Um, and I'm happy she survived to end in the film.
Yeah.
Since I was unsure if that was going to be a thing or not.
Yeah. I thought it was also interesting. Yeah. She doesn't just have human lovers in the comics. I believe she also was partnered with Ro for a small amount of time. Crow, I mean, the Deviant Prime, who we end up seeing as, we don't really see him in his true form, but he's actually supposed to be like more powerful than an Eternal. But he's the one who absorbs the powers of all the different Eternals that he kills. He's actually able to essentially just like bitch slap Thanos because he is the Prime Deviant who came before the first Eternal, and Thanos is the son of Eternals.
Right.
Before she realized what it was, she was with Crow, who ended up turned out just wanting to experiment on her, so that turned out bad for her. And I think the same thing kind of played on that with Crow absorbing Gilgamesh's powers, and then we realized that Gilgamesh may have also been in love with Athena, or there's something there, but I think it's kind of weird how they bounced around that without actually committing to it.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I thought that was just kind of weird.
Are you happy where she ended up at the end of the film?
Yeah. Yes. I like the way that, her character found her own conviction, was able to realize that she was strong enough to use her powers and use them responsibly, and was the one who dealt the final blow to the monster because she's the greatest warrior, so of course it has to be her.
Of course.
Yeah, and then I think I'm interested to see what happens with her and Eros.
Yeah, we're going to talk about him in the end.
Yes.
But
I will say on your comment with the special effects, I think it is kind of interesting to talk about that in regards to this movie, given how visually driven the powers are. Because I mean, like, you do. I mean, Iron Man is also all special effects, but it all makes sense. The suit, the missiles and bullets and all that.
Yeah.
But this is strictly like people whose powers can't be described as really good at acrobatics and shooting, or really athletic and can throw a shield. This is all strictly like, how do you use someone who does something that looks commonplace, but in a way that is like 10 times greater than that of the next best human?
Yeah.
So having like this visual layer on top of that, say like when Gilgamesh punches something, you're getting punched by a metric ton of celestial energy on top of that.
Good points there too. Like, I feel we would have a discussion like this with Doctor Strange if we did the show back then. And also if Doctor Strange will be fully committed to this idea that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Because one big complaint of that movie, I remember, at least on my side, I know other people felt similar, is, in the comics you have, the Sorcerer Supreme have all these amazing spells, with interesting visualizations.
Yeah.
In a movie, we get fiery energy swords and whips.
Yeah.
And then the Mirrorverse is cool, but like when we saw it in Infinity War, right?
Yeah.
kind of Endgame, but more Infinity Wars, because we had more scenes with Doctor Strange of, you know, him using the Crimson Bands of Sidorak, or, you know, the Firebolts, or the Wind of Watum, or, you know,
Yeah.
all these different spells, and they all had unique looks in some
Yeah.
capacity. You know, images of Ekron for the duplication spell, like like that. What I want to see from a Doctor Strange movie, from a Sorcerer's movie,
Hmm.
in MCU. So since we missed out on that, and since the new Doctor Strange movie is still possibly been a year away from now, this was our first kind of, I think, kind of more otherworldly, almost magical. You know, how do you visualize these powers? Because
Hmm.
Guardians of the Galaxy, while alien and while sci-fi, well, you know, talked about Celestials a bit, really all of their abilities are pretty mundane.
Yeah.
And, you know, like Groot is a tree. You've got a kind of an idea how a tree will attack people. You know, Rocket is a talking raccoon or trash panda.
Yep.
But, you know, you use firearms. You know how firearms work, even if it's a sci-fi gun. You
Yeah.
know, Gamora with her sword, Drax with his knives, Star Lord with his guns, like all pretty easy to know how you see those things. Um, but no, let's continue down the list. So I'm trying to remember, I think we have Druid nests, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the nested turtles. So, any specific thoughts about him?
It's not interesting. Well, one, not having him be the traitor when he's normally always the traitor.
That is a
Um,
good one.
yeah. But I think they did kind of play on him a little differently in that um, his whole thing is he's one of the best mind controllers on the planet. So his whole thought is that humans are too weak-willed and too young and like naive to really know what's best for them. So it's better if he just does what he knows is better for them. And so obviously that doesn't fly with a lot of the other Eternals. And so we kind of see that a little bit in that he essentially creates this cult in the middle of the woods around him. But I think it's interesting that they did that they really tapped into the idea that like no, he genuinely believes that this is better for them. That like he's not just doing this to aggrandize himself. He like genuinely believes that if he wants to save humanity, he needs to be in control in order to make sure that they can't hurt each other. Uh, and so I thought that was kind of interesting how they almost turned him into like a half villain for a little bit without actually making him, the traitor.
Well,
So they could have Icarus do it later on. But
like, I like that aspect of him, and it kind of makes me like we haven't really talked about how these characters will interact with the greater MCU yet, and we will later. But a little early thought on that topic is I kind of would love to see him interact with Sam Wilson a bit,
oh yeah,
and kind of have that, you know, freedom and personal choice, and then this, you know, psychic that just feels the best way for me to protect you people is just control you.
yeah,
Like that could be a very fun and interesting and maybe even insightful conversation.
yeah,
So, um, he's also the actor could be in the Batman movie.
yes, yeah.
Yes. Um,
Which I'm also excited for.
I'm. And he was in Dunkirk, which I love that movie. That was so good.
Yeah,
Um, but I'm excited for the Batman film, which when is that even coming out now? I think yeah, that's right around my birthday.
nice.
That March 4th. Yeah, so I might see that for my birthday. That'd be
There
nice.
you go.
So,
Yeah,
but still more center though on DC is Black Adam for the JSA. But
mm-hmm.
yeah. um, what else? I am I'm debatably more interested to see how he will be in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there's a lot there to talk about. I feel with that character,
Yeah.
but next one then is um Photos.
Festus.
Festus.
Yeah.
You were past one name. Festus. My pictures to play with him is not even at all about the character, right? And then I wish they didn't show that table scene in the trailers.
Oh yeah.
Because that scene was less impactful for sure in a film
Mhm.
compared to I saw that just, flat out from the movie.
I know that's one of the things where like I wish I had skipped the trailers for this movie altogether. Like normally that's what I do is I skip trailers or something. I just
Yep.
see like what titles are slated, and then uh, if the description is about what I like or if it has decent reviews, I'll go see it. But yeah, that uh, it just the way that scene was done still got me kind of cracked up. But
Oh,
it,
I
it
think for
definitely
me
would
too.
have been it would have been great if it was just if that was just something that they stuck by in there.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, I still really enjoyed the scene, no doubt. But, like, like you said, if you didn't see it, it would have hit even harder.
Yeah.
So, but I liked him. I felt he was the most, not the most different, but there's a tiny bit of, like, almost, I'm going to say out of place, even though it doesn't feel like the right term. But I even liked that a bit because you really felt he honestly did not really want to have anything to do with any of this. I just felt he had to be there for his family.
Yeah.
But
I thought this.
besides that,
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that he's this eternal being who is more at home with his husband and kid than he is with like his other like essentially members of his species. The fact that he was the greatest inventor who ever lived was more out of place with the superhero team than he was at home. I think and they did a really good job of showing just how uh, the range a person can have, especially given how many years he's had to live, where um, living as just a normal suburban dad. um,
yeah,
but also they do see a lot of like then that plays into the emotion of him and like making the decision to I'll put myself at risk because I want to see my kid have a future. That whole it's very good motivator. Um, and so whole scene and the fact that also his husband had to be the one to kind of like really talk him into it and say like you know they're uh you have to do this because I can't. Like you're the only one who can.
I I loved all that about him, but I also his comedy also worked for me. I will say,
Oh
I
yeah.
feel he has some of the best lines in comedy.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, comedy is personal taste, so everyone can feel differently, of course. But I loved the table scene. I wanted to do this for so many years with Icarus, but I
Yeah.
really loved him trying to invent the sea engine. And
Mm-hmm.
he just like, no, you cannot do this. Too soon, too powerful. They're not ready for it. And
Yep.
he's like, just remove so much stuff like a plow. Is that okay?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I love that scene. That was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what the scene. I thought it was really interesting, just showing like, uh, the scene with the atomic bomb and just having him like essentially mourn,
Yeah.
like, and how like true that is to life, and the fact that like Oppenheimer, the guy who, well, as far as we know, actually invented the atomic bomb. Like the second they said it was going to be used, he instantly regretted ever inventing it. Saying like this isn't designed to be like a theoretical form of energy; it should never be used as a weapon. Um, and like the fact that like the deaths of people he never knew like ruined the rest of his life, and he couldn't he was bedridden for like months,
Hmm.
just hit with that weighing on him.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Hmm. And then the last also is the speedster.
Makari.
Makari.
Makari. I'm gonna just jump in real quick with her. Makari's probably the most different from the comics of any character. Well, true in the comics that she is a speedster, and she also is was born deaf, so she has to sign. In the comics, she is another spiritual leader of the Eternals, kind of like Ajax. But whereas Ajax is tied in with who is the judge? I forgot the name of that celestial.
Eris. Give me a sec. I thought it's here.
Arishem.
Erisham.
Yeah. So whereas
Yeah,
Ajax is tied in more with Arishem and the rest of the like normal celestial pantheon. Um, Makari is tied in more with the Dreaming Celestial and worships that one as a different god essentially because it lived in the earth and was tied to the Eternals and other humans psychically, and it talked to Makari like the strongest. Makari's been tied to that one.
okay.
And so with the Dreaming Celestial, since you being the one that dies in this one, it's kind of, they didn't really do that. But it does also then kind of hint at one of the theories that the Celestial was tied to humanity and series going up and joined in with the Eternals in the hive mind because it wanted its birth to be stopped so that the rest of humanity could live. And that it willingly made that sacrifice because it was essentially it had taken that time while swarming to develop a faith in humanity. And so I think just them being together gives a little more credence to that theory, even though it's not really talked. It actually doesn't see like any line work at all about it, other than at the end with Cersei saying that she had felt the Celestial joined them. But not having Makari be a essentially spiritual figure or not be another priest of the group, I thought was kind of interesting. And so she felt the most flat at times because she didn't really have like too much of a thing until they had moments of her, being the essentially the scout information gatherer, and because of that, then she becomes like a mad collector, and they kind of point to the idea that she is all over the place gathering information and things, and so having her being this, when you actually see like what years of collecting has done and the horde she established inside the ship, I thought that was kind of fun how that essentially became her thing instead of her being this priest. There's essentially her being a hoarder.
Was as usual. I like that too. And I'm trying to get to the go the priest route. But I also like that they use actress that was deaf.
Yes.
For a deaf character. I actually remember the actress from The Walking Dead a while back. I don't know if she's still on that show or not, but
and I believe also the actress for Maya in Hawkeye is also deaf.
She is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I liked her. I liked that they use sign language, of course, which, of course, they would for a character like that, but still, it's nice to see it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been meaning to go back to sign language for the longest time, but I keep on just not being able to really study it, or just get wrapped up in other stuff. But it's still a goal I want to do, because I did it when I was a kid. And I still have my sign language book here.
Nice.
Yeah. Like, I didn't know it when I was a kid. I went to sign language school in New York, in Manhattan. So. they're gonna really start studying it. Um, but I liked her. I'm not gonna say you're my least favorite character because you wasn't, but they're just I just have really a strong reaction one way or another, you know?
Hmm.
You know what I mean, really?
Yeah.
So, but I liked her, but let's go to the Deviant. The Deviant, and then we could go to the Celestials and then the smaller little characters.
Yeah.
So the Deviant, Prime Deviant, what do you think of him?
I thought it was interesting. I would have liked it if they actually did fully turn him into Crow and have him be more of a fleshed out personality. I think that was probably the weakest point of the movie for me was not having a very strong antagonist.
Yeah.
I get what they're kind of doing, that they're using them more so to set up Arishem as kind of an antagonist, or it just being more so a race against time to try and stop this. But I would have thought it was interesting if they had really played up Crow being this guy who may not necessarily be wrong in knowing that, like, look, these Celestials just create these people to kill them off. If anything, I'm doing them a favor. I'm just trying to make sure that if the Celestials are going to keep on killing off planets, I just want to make sure that my people have a future. But again, have him be so hardline and so aggressive that he has to be stopped because he's not actually like trying to negotiate things out. He's killing tons of people. But instead, it feels kind of like he's just there. He feels more like yes, he is an animal in the movie more so than he is actually
a character.
Crow, but it feels as in that he's just directionless. That he's just there because he can be. If they had actually played into him gaining sentience or having the sentience and developing understanding of this grand plan and knowing exactly what he needs to do, where he needs to be in order to throw a wrench into it, that would have been a bit more interesting rather than just having him kind of show up places.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. He really just came off like an animal to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not really much character there.
Yeah.
It was very light.
Yeah.
So it's hard to pinpoint. I know it's similar with the Celestials, but on the opposite side, I kind of like it with them. So let's go to them. Before we really talk, go. I don't want to say.
Yeah, whereas like with him being kind of directionless and just kind of showing up on the Platonism too, feels kind of like just a weak antagonist. Having them do this, it kind of feels like it's playing into I forgot the name of the philosophy, but the idea of the is it Voltaire? Voltaire's God. Everything is right in heaven and earth is to its own devices. Where God is kind of just abandoned earth to like figure things out and will just come in when people really start messing things up. So having them be kind of these very like impassionate, almost amoral and just like not caring but omnipotent beings, like, no, this is the grand plan. You follow it for no reason other than it is the grand plan. Mm-hmm. And I think that does them a lot of service just because of, they're really serving the grander scheme of things. It just feels a lot more. Having them feel more like these directionless wanderers is a lot more terrifying than the deviants in some aspects.
That is true. One aspect of the Celestials, I will admit, and my mind did go to it, is the idea of, a Celestial being born from the planet, and you have a giant Celestial basically over the planet, and none of the other heroes from the hero community notice this, or
Mm.
come to investigate.
That's what I'm hoping they play into with future parts of the MCU. I doubt we're going to get that really in Hawkeye, but maybe if we get like at least like a news thing or something mentioned in Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
But also with everything being released out of order, it's kind of we're not sure what exactly is supposed to come right after this. But that was the thing that also happened for like Iron Man and Captain America were familiar with the Eternals, but they just kind of like knew they just kind of they had like these weird run-ins, like just kind of keep themselves, it's whatever. But when the Celestials pop up and they eventually like what, and they're like, no, we're not here for you. We don't care about you. We're here for our kids. That's when they like really got concerned. Or even moments where, and from that point on, when the Eternals returned to the surface of Earth, Iron Man immediately gets like a warning signal, like things are about to get real weird. I need to start looking at it. Of course, now with the MCU, will be interesting to see who exactly be powerful enough to check in on the Eternals to see, like, okay, what is happening. And so I think that maybe what set off maybe Blade and Captain Britain, if they end up getting them in MI13 after the Blade movie or something like that, where or as part of the Blade movie, they do decide to do the MI13 Dracula movie with the Black Knight. Was seeing this giant thing hover the sky, like, what?
Also, kind of, technically, this is not the first movie we saw at Celestial. The first one was the original Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Yeah, and that showed Esau the Searcher.
I kind of was hoping he made a cameo on this. I was slightly disappointed he didn't.
Yeah.
But, oh well. Yeah, but what do you think of how the Celestials were designed, by the way? The fact that they were all kind of similar compared to the comics, where, like, RSM has a very different design compared to Eson, and then here they look much more similar.
Yeah. Yeah, there were, yeah. I think it's, well, and then also we saw that other one, I forgot that one's name, when they're showing when Erishim is showing Cersei kind of the grand plan.
We still like 3 of them.
Yeah,
Not
but then,
one.
yeah, and the 2 individuals did look a bit more different, but I think they kind of did that to give them more of like a uniform feel. I mean, not to like talk down on films, but for films you do need to not quite dumb things down, but make things more simplified or more uniform in order to really convey things with significance, because you don't have the same like amount of like non-dialogue text to really convey, no, they're all Celestials. It's versus you have to immediately convey through visuals that they are Celestials, so they need to look alike. And I think they kind of did that in a way that's smart, and they still have like characters, and they still do look unique, but similar enough that when you see one, like, oh, that's one of them.
That's fair point. And the other 2 were named Jeremiah the Analyzer, Nessar the Calculator, and Harkin the Measurer.
Yeah.
Are the other 3 they showed. And they do have unique designs. They do look different.
Yeah.
I really like Jeremiah, actually. Especially the head. She was the one making the galaxy.
Yeah.
Alright, let's go to the small ones. What about Black Knight? The fact that we have the Black Knight, which is a character, if you told me 5 years ago that one of the next ones, I'm like, wait, what?
That's something that completely skipped my mind, because like when we were in the theaters, I'm like, why does Dane Whitman sound familiar? And then we got to him, like, oh crap.
Yeah, I got that too.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense having him. I thought it was really interesting the way they did it. Cersei being one of the few Eternals that decided to stick around and actually take a human lover in the books. That was very true to comics, but also, yeah, And also, it's kind of the weird thing of comics and fantastical storytelling that it's very incestuous. Everyone with powers knows everyone else with powers in some way. So, um, Dane Whitman being the Black Knight is kind of and it just happens to be dating. It was kind of funny, but yeah, I'm not expecting that, but that's what makes me excited for the possibility of Blade being MI13 and the possibility of having Captain Britain in there, and especially with Morbius also coming out, and all of them having a connection to Dracula, which is kind of interesting that Dracula, even though now may not essentially pull the same clout as being a Marvel big bad, for a while was a Marvel big bad. I definitely think the big bad's going to be Kang, because I mean, how can you not? But I think if we had a lot of movies with Dracula tied in, I think that would be just kind of funny. Yeah,
I'd love to see the Howling Commandos. In all honesty.
Yeah.
But, Alger, did you see the Kane costume?
Yeah.
With the Ant-Man poster?
Yes.
That is so comic accurate. I love it.
I know, it's fantastic.
I'm so excited for Kane.
Yes. Even though we're not normally at the time, my weird theory for what's going to happen to Dane Whitman in the future.
Yep.
So Blade movie will lead into MI13.
Yes.
And then we'll also get the classic MI13 Spooky Man, Pete Wisdom, who is also a mutant. And that's when we get the first mention of him in the MCU. And we were like, wait, what is this? And the British government is like, they've always been here. We just never told anyone because it's classified.
And I wanted to bring mutants in MCU.
Yeah.
And then, before we go to Star Fox, I must also mention, Blade, since technically this is Blade's first introduction to the MCU, even though he is not seen shown on screen.
Yes, I thought that was really smart having him be the one to introduce essentially Black Knight, as Black Knight, and that's they were already establishing that Blade is a active person in this universe, so you don't need to worry about another origin. I mean, there's already a trilogy about him. If they wanted to, they could make those part of the MCU. They're about the same time. They're about the same time as the Ed Norton Hulk, so why not?
Especially the same time as, especially with the multiverse,
Yeah.
added in. If you don't want it to be main MCU, but part of the multiverse, easy enough.
Yeah. But it does also kind of set the immediate precedent that Dane Whitman's kind of going to get thrown in the deep end.
Yep, I like that.
Yeah.
But not much else to say about Blade. I love that actor so much.
Yeah, Mahershala Ali is a fantastic choice, but apparently he's like losing sleep because he's really hoping that people like it. Like, just there's the ton of responsibility, but dealing with a property that was so important, not just for like superheroes and like kind of like really setting the tone for like the gritty '90s superhero, but also like then what those look like in films and what a film superhero looks like. But also as an African American superhero, and what that means for like representation and all that. Yeah.
And especially since the Black Panther is kind of knocked that bit to the bit up in the air now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's looking to him.
Yeah.
I think. But I loved that. I loved him in Green Book. I loved him in Luke Cage. I loved him in. There's multiple things I really enjoyed him in. So
I really liked him in Alita Battle Angel.
Right, he was in that. I remember that. I loved him in that too. So yeah. All right, let's go to the one that I honestly have had a bigger surprise for. First of all, I did not recognize Pip at all.
Yeah.
I had no clue who that was. I'm like, who is this little dude? I checked the name later, but I did recognize Star Fox, and I am very unsure about the music Star Fox. What are your thoughts? Because I must know.
It's interesting. I mean, he does play a bigger role in certain things, not so much anymore, but for the era of stuff that they're pulling from now, he was used a lot, especially for She-Hulk. Um, but I think I mean, there's a whole thing where essentially She-Hulk defended him when he was accused of misconduct, which maybe not that storyline,
I
but
remember that storyline.
yeah.
And
I think we can avoid the problematic parts of him, but just have him be horny on main. That'd be fantastic. Just have him be like a very like charming but very horny person.
yeah, that might be good, but that's not
Yeah.
predatory.
Yes.
Which,
But I think it would be kind of interesting to have him be something like where I think New Rockstars had peddled this idea where he can make a really good lawyer because of how pathetic he is. So if they were to have the Eternals be tried by the Living Tribunal and Eros shows up as their defendant, essentially, gonna tie that in with She-Hulk's legal drama going on. I think that'd be kind of a fun way to pay homage to maybe that reference without actually, going into that.
they really should not do that storyline. I remember that storyline, and that's what that like. I said it before about Dance Off Shield. I really enjoyed that. It says near the end when it changed writers, it immediately dropped that premise
Yeah.
of being in a court and lawyer stuff, but when they were going on, I loved that. But also, when I first saw Star Fox, I immediately thought of that. I'm like, oh, Marvel, what are you doing?
I think everyone can agree should just not do that one. But yeah.
I agree with that, but I mean, no, I did not read Star Fox, before that, right? Did I even know? So maybe, he does not come off as brash
Yeah.
as that, but I just feel like there's kind of a can of worms that they are, or, they kind of have like a little bomb they're holding that they possibly can drop and will go off in a very bad way if they're not careful.
Yeah, it's something that's very much like
This is very risky.
they have to redo the entire character.
But then I also like, why use Star Fox then?
Yeah.
Compared to someone else.
Because he is the brother of Thanos, and I think they're wanting to do something with Titan and maybe the Cancerverse later on.
Fair.
So, I think he can be used well, but I'm hoping they can kind of use this like they've done some things where they can rebrand someone in the movie so much so they can reintroduce them to the comics. Because Star Fox has also not been touched in the comics for such a long time because of this.
Yeah.
So if they're able to somehow rehabilitate the character and then kind of slide him back in, they're like, no, that was alternate universe me.
That could work.
Yeah.
I hope that still that they did not use Star Fox before Thanos. Or like
Personally,
that,
no.
because that might have been an interesting, interaction between the two of them.
No, it might have been interesting, but I'm almost like, it's one, he is such a weird character. I'm not sure, like, kind of we're explaining that like they're brothers, and then getting into like the whole eternal cosmology, like how does that work thing. So I think that would have been a bit much to get into, because like, it's gonna sound a little gatekeepery, but it's meant as the opposite of that. Like phases 1 through 3 of the MCU were for normies. That was for like people who have like heard of a superhero or may have seen one comic book or have not seen anything like that. I've just heard Captain America get referenced in Running Man and rap songs. Like if they were to walk into a theater and watch it, like they'd be able to get dropped in without needing any backstory. Now we're getting into the point where like those people have been brought on, they have been like brainwashed, and they've joined our cults, and now we're getting into like the deep juju of comic book stuff. And so I think now is the time where you can really explore some of the weirder things, like how does an Eternal have a kid? What does that look like? How do Thanos and like Star Fox work? Essentially, and then getting into if Star Fox inherits Titan, and the last ruler of Titan was this like weird megalomaniac. What does that mean for him? So I think they're gonna be able to really explore a lot of this being after Thanos' death. They're gonna be able to get a lot more into the juju, and then a bit more into the psychology of Star Fox, and maybe why he's choosing now to interact with these other things and always trying to intervene after the death of his brother. And so I think that opens up more dorms to explore that character in a way that is not creepy and actually like allows for that sort of like rehabilitation where we can get maybe a bit more of a still horny but not creepy type character.
Good points. Good points. So we have been quite a long time now. So we still kind of had on our list of why this team. Then so maybe just let's mix up why this team and the cosmic of them two were let's going at then.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like what I just kind of mentioned, like why they renamed Star Fox now. I think they chose this team because they are so tied in deeply with the weird juju of Marvel. Like the there are still like gods above the Celestials. You have the one above all, and then the Enigma Force and Null being the polar opposites of that, and then below them are the Celestials who actually deal with like the material of everything. So we kind of stepped on the Infinity Stones, which are tied into the Celestials, and now using the Eternals, who are have that direct connection to the Celestials, allows us to take that next step up in a way that is a lot more natural than randomly just introducing, like, you know, Ershon or have Isan show up and like, hey, Stark, I need you for something. Like, who are you? Well, Stark's dead now, but you know, but that whole thing. I think it allows for a more natural introduction of the weird juju, especially with Igor the God Butcher getting introduced soon.
Yeah.
And his sword, all black, being the sword of Null, who is the god of the void, the god of darkness, the direct opposite of the Enigma Force, which you may get in a Request to Spider-Verse, given that we had Enigma Spider-Man for a little bit, or at some point you may get Enigma Force. So we're just kind of like setting these steps to like introduce the cosmology of Marvel, and not just that it would be weird things happening on Earth, but the actual like the forces at a play that allowed this reality to exist.
Fair. Good points. I think that really answers everything, especially, you know, also where's MCU going. So I'll just say this is, do you think we'll see any of the cosmic characters or entities in like the Guardians of the Galaxy film coming out in a couple of years?
I'm not sure, because have they confirmed who the bad one, the big bad in that one is? As I know...
A while back they confirmed Adam Warlock, I think. That was before the whole, you know, James Gunn trauma.
Mm-hmm. And then now James Gunn is back on it because that is a whole thing. But hey,
Gamora, Rocket, the Ravagers, Adam Warlock, Chadwick, but I can't pronounce his last name, is cast as a undisclosed role. So maybe he's the big bad, but we don't know what that is yet.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm not...
all the regulars that are cast right now. No bad guy.
I don't know if we're gonna get like two cosmic things. I doubt we're gonna get a whole lot of Enigma Force or Null. Or not, we're actually gonna see Enigma Force or Null. But Gore the God Butcher is gonna be in Thor: Love and Thunder, and his sword is the Necro Blade or all black. So we may see a little bit of hints towards sort of the greater cosmology, but I think right now the main thing is going to be we introduce this layer, and then we're going to kind of sit with it for a little bit, see what Kane does. We're going to deal a lot with like multiverses and time travel. I think it's going to be kind of a consistent thing for a little bit, especially given like Kane the Conqueror's connection to that being the fact that like you can't really kill him because his consciousness is shared across all multiverses. Mm-hmm. I think we're gonna sit here for a little bit and maybe now lay some Easter eggs for what's going to happen in the future, like you did with like Guardians. We introduced space to that and we laid Easter eggs for the Celestials, but didn't get to them until now. So I think now we're gonna kind of sit in this. You might see the Living Tribunal done as the courtroom that the Eternals get tried in.
Yeah.
but I doubt we're going to get too weird with it.
Fair. Um, also, the rat, the villain, is actually confirmed to be Adam Warlock.
Okay, interesting. So they're not. It'll be interesting to see if they do keep him as a villain or if they redeem him at the end to turn him into the hero that we're familiar with.
That I'm curious myself.
Yeah.
And then, that's really everything we had with our original plan for today, but at the end, we did write down a random Seb and Tim talk, which, considering the fact that we have not done one in now 2 months, and I'm sorry about that, guys. Life has been taking me over. We're all trying to do these when we can, but I kind of just thought of a random new idea that I wanted to try, and I'm sorry for Tim to just like planting this on you without any warning. So here it is.
Yeah.
How about we talk for like a few minutes on just what we are excited for, or reading, or played, or whatever
Sure.
that coming out soon, or you already started, or etc. So you want to go first, or shall I?
I feel like the obvious answer is Halo.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
We've both been playing a lot of Halo. Last
so-
night, well, I don't know if Phil told you, but
Yeah.
our mutual friend Phil, but
Oh, I saw
we-
you guys online.
yeah, we played Halo last night.
I could ask him. I could ask to maybe join you guys, but I was caught up with other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw you log on to play Dead by Daylight. I'm like, oh, I can message Brooke, and then I saw Jaybird log in. I'm like, oh, he's doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're doing that. I on stream today did my ranked matches, got gold, which was not expecting. I thought maybe like high, make mid silver, high bronze. I'm like, no, all right, I'm gold 1. Let's go.
Yep.
Try to hit platinum or
I'm
diamond before the end of the season, I guess.
I'm so hyped for that. This campaign. I already pre-ordered the soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going so bad because I want to do an episode on Infinite so badly. And no promises, but I'm going to try to make that episode either next week or the week after.
Yeah.
I want to, and you and I talked about it, and I want to get some more people if I can. But I'm also like, most likely be doing a media blackout from YouTube starting tonight, because I was checking the Reddit, and spoilers for the story have officially started coming out.
Oh.
So, there's things I do know that I looked at, stuff that will be coming soon for it that I want to know, like vehicles or weapons, which I'm excited about, but won't spoil that. But I don't watch story leaks.
Yeah.
So, in only 2 days, Wednesday morning to today, I'm sure to unlock. And you got the story already, which I'm kind of surprised you actually bought it to that so soon.
I saw it, it was just payday, and I haven't got myself anything fun over the weekend. I've just been working on stuff.
Yeah.
For another thing, which I can officially talk about now.
Go ahead.
But Tabletop Collective is a YouTube channel for all things tabletop wargaming. So we have a trailer up now, but we're going to be putting out. We filmed battle reports and real play sessions of playing Middle Earth strategy battle games. We're going to do a lot of like Lord of the Rings stuff with that. Also a little bit of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. We also are doing painting content, so the stuff I do on stream will also be on that YouTube channel. And I've been working on I did some of the graphics for that. So the banner, I did the design for that, and worked with another one of our guys on doing the thing for our logo, which is getting finished up now. They're gonna hopefully should be able to do that and change out the stock image we've been using. Yeah, so that's the thing I've been working on quite a bit, just doing planning and recording audio and voiceover and doing design.
That is awesome. And also, I'm excited for our Warhammer game soon.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I also want to point out a show I started watching. as a little segment that we've been up to called Super Crooks,
Oh, how's that?
which I've been considering for a future podcast episode. It is not bad. I kind of like it. It's just weird. It reminds me a little of Invincible, okay?
Sure.
With kind of the animation style and the violence. But this is a story of a. The first episode talks about the main character's kid, right?
Mhm.
Finds he has superpowers, wants to be a hero. That did not go well. I'll just phrase it
Okay.
like that without spoiling stuff. So they're pretty new, so I think. And then the rest of the show is so similar to the adult, and he's actually a crook. He's a robber. He's does heists with his gain. With the superpower is electricity manipulation,
Sure.
and he tries to pull a heist on the crime lord of his world. I think I'm only a few episodes in, and he
Okay.
have, like the superheroes are a little like I see a little like Invincible and the Boys, where they're a bit corporatized,
Yeah. Okay.
where like while a like Rubber Man or Rubber Band Man was like chasing him as a ball, right? Like you see, cut away to like news reports of them collaborating it, and they have names for the moves, and like, will they get him? You know, very sensationalized with kind of heroes versus villains, but the crooks are just trying to get away, and it is. I would recommend it for kids, kind of like the Boys or Invincible. Not recommend a 12-year-old to watch this stuff.
Sure.
But I kind of like it, and I could have watched the rest, and I might want to do an episode on it in the future. But I definitely will mention it again. So, it's on Netflix. I think it's a Netflix original. My understanding is that it is based off a graphic novel. But yeah. So, besides that, I have just been game-wise doing Halo and Star Citizen. And
Yeah, nice.
MCC a bit because
Yeah.
there's I did a couple. I kind of played half of the campaign of ODST the other day, just some reason because I I love the classic Halo series, but I honestly feel ODST does not get enough love,
Yeah.
and that soundtrack is so damn good.
Honestly, in my mind, I have since put ODST into like the main timeline and have taken uh, Halo 5 out of it.
Well, Halo 5 that deserves to not be the timeline, I think.
Yeah, the multiplayer was kind of it was a decent game, but it didn't feel like a good Halo game.
I'll phrase like that. The multiplayer was honestly really good, but not for a Halo title.
Mm-hmm.
Like for a different game, the multiplayer I would have loved it much more. But for
Yeah.
a Halo game,
Yeah, and the campaign was 3 hours.
the campaign was horrible.
Yeah.
The campaign was so horrible. If you all want, like, I know people say they like my book rants or sub rants. I don't care if I've mentioned my name before, Seb. Yeah, I did do a real rant of Halo 5 if you want me to.
Yeah. I think
Real rant.
I think we'll save that for our Halo episode, but
Oh, no,
I'm think-
not the whole separate episode itself, because of how big that will be.
yeah. But I'm thinking what I may end up doing
Yep.
is I'm just gonna be doing like probably like to find a story so far video on YouTube just to recap going at Infinite, and then do my first playthrough of Infinite, and then go back and I might do it on stream and then play Combat Evolved through Infinite, skipping 5, of course.
Fair enough. Yep, I don't know, I would be happy to join you for some of that. You know,
Yeah.
I've actually thought of streaming again on Twitch for games, and I'd be doing a Heroes then, and maybe Risk of Rain too.
Mhm.
But I'm also gonna play some Halo Wars 2 before Infinite comes out because I wanna. It's the most relevant to the story.
Yeah.
And besides that, there's one of the things I actually started is that let's end on what we've been up to with this, and also at the end feel free to tell people where to find you. You know, even if a little bit about yourself for the people, is that your normal routine? Since we cannot do that to start, but Hawkeye at
Oh yeah.
that point, um, you've been liking it.
I've been liking it a lot.
Yeah, we'll do a
It
whole
it
episode, but
it feels like the rest of the like MCU TV shows have been great.
yeah,
Um, uh, uh, but I put Hawkeye above Falcon and Winter Soldier, below WandaVision.
yeah,
But it's the first time that I feel like I'm watching a comic on a TV show. Uh, it feels the most comic, and I mean that's also the whole thing where maybe a little too much, and that they took a lot of stuff from David Aya, and then it took Twitter outrage for them to send him a check. Uh, but uh, I mean it's Clint Barton and Kate Bishop as I remember them. Uh, and it's so good. The action is good. The humor is good. The timing is fun. It feels like you're reading or watching a comic as it plays out.
yeah. Fair points. I've been enjoying it. We're not going to go into detail of it because, of course, we'll talk about it when the season's over properly. But I will say I've been enjoying the show a good amount, and I've been in the opening reminds me of Matt Fraction art style,
Mm-hmm.
art stuff in that book, and it's been making me want to read it since I do have it, but I've not read it yet.
It's one of the best like character titles from that era of Marvel.
I've heard amazing things about that book, so it's been on my to-read
Yeah,
list for the longest time. I have that book, and I have the Kate Bishop book around that era too.
yeah.
So, or a few years later, I think that 2016 with that Kate Bishop book. So, um, yeah. So it's definitely something I would release a show, talk about maybe the book too. Who knows? But no, if I did type in Hawkeye, yeah, Fracture was 12 to 2015. Bishop was 2016 to 2018. Got all the books from both runs. So, yeah. But besides that, I think that is it for, nerdy information with the topics. Besides, Tim, anything else you want to say to the audience before we go about
Uh,
yourself or your streams or projects or where to find you or
yeah.
random fun facts?
On all the social medias, people can find me at Tim TK Writer. I have a comic book series coming out next year called Wolf Hunter, which is a World War II spy series. I'm currently working on something new, which has not been announced yet. And I stream at Aggrobacon every Wednesday and Sunday, uh, mostly doing Halo or Star Wars: The Old Republic or Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
So, with all three having big releases in December, I'm probably going to forgo productivity this next month and but stream a lot. Uh, yeah, that's that.
Fair enough. Yep. And we'll be talking to Yellow sometime soon. Um, I will apologize again. The past few months have been totally nuts for me. Um, and I've honestly had a lost drive with doing a show, where I think was shown by just my social media presence and a couple of other things. But I'm, or I and my guys, Tim and anyone else, everyone else that joins me, they're going to try to reevaluate exactly what will be. It, we might prioritize a few things less, just because it's hard for me to see certain things now. I did not think when I moved that they would have such a big impact on what I could see,
mm,
but or how should I get content. it seems to have had a larger impact than I originally visioned. So I have to figure out how to properly refocus the show so we can have proper content for you guys without waiting 2 months for an episode.
I have to start bringing my phone into theaters and so we'll put it on like share screen or something on Discord.
Sam Thomas handled. We're good.
There we go.
All right, Dane. I hope you have a wonderful night. Happy holidays, by the way, for Thanksgiving, since I wasn't even on during that week,
Yes.
or really that month, for peace sake.
And hope everyone has had a good Hanukkah, and you have won all of your trail matchups and bankrupted all your cousins.
Yes, happy Hanukkah. I will post in my Discord also a unique turkey challah that I saw and had. So you are free to enjoy that picture. That'll be up most likely tonight. And we'll be back before 2 months from now. I'm not going to see next week, but maybe next week. We will see how it goes. I want to, when we do Halo Infinite, I want everyone to have a proper amount of time to get for the campaign. And since it's kind of a bit, it's less linear, and it will be what they did a launcher's campaign with the least a dozen missions. I don't want people to feel rushed.
I'm contemplating calling out.
You're contemplating what?
Calling out.
Calling out. All right. No, we don't end. It's been down to our stream. Have a good night all. Bye bye.
I'll